totalitarian systems or under failing democracies or democracies in difficulties. It is quite a hard, not easy topic, but it is wonderful to have really great guests on the panel. Anastasia Patlay, Michal Hvorecky, and the moderation. Formerly, we thought it would be done by Katrin Romberg from Contact Collection, but Katrin Romberg needed to cancel due to personal reasons. So there are some circumstances that does not allow her to come. But we are really, really happy that Dessy Gavrilova is doing the moderation tonight. Dessy Gavrilova is a cultural entrepreneur, and she's also the founder of the debate series and network Time to Talk. Well, dear Dessy, I give you the word now and ask you to start with the introduction of our two guests. Thank you a lot.
Thank you very much. And I'm really happy I had to jump in the last minute. Today we're going to talk about culture and the arts under oppressive regimes, in the context of oppressive regimes, and about how these regimes affect the arts, but also to what extent the arts can create spaces of freedom in the context of these regimes. And we have these two great speakers that I'm happy to present to you a little bit. Anastasia Patlay is actress. I know her first as an actress, I have to say, because she played in a performance that, for me personally, was very important. 1 hour, 18 minutes is a documentary theater performance by Theater Doc in Moscow. In the year, I think, 2011 it was created. This is when I saw it, for sure, in Moscow. And it is absolutely mind-blowing, touching, important performance about the case of Magnitsky. For me, it was the first documentary theater performance that I saw, which absolutely influenced my path to a certain extent further on. And I since then followed Theater Doc, the Russian theater, with all the troubles that they had in the coming years until they were closed and absolutely destroyed. And after the beginning of the war, of course, moved out of the country, the people that still were in one way or another affiliated with it. But Anastasia is also a theater director, and she worked also with the Sakharov Center in Russia, with the Meyerhold Center, many. I cannot tell all of your creative work that you had, but a really important artist with a very strong civic position in the work that she was doing and still continues doing, now in exile since 2002 in Spain. And Michal Hvorecky is an author from Slovakia, also an essayist, known as column writers or essayist in many newspapers in Slovakia and also in the German-speaking world, like the Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung und Die Zeit also. But since the last elections, I think you will tell us more probably about that, but you're putting probably more into kind of cultural activism, if I can say this work, or opposition to the regime through not political action, but on the border of cultural work and protest. You'll tell us probably more about this, and whether I'm right that in a way you're devoting yourself to resisting the shrinking of the freedom for the arts that one currently can observe in Slovakia. But I would like to start with asking you both, and probably you first, Michal, to tell us about, somehow to draw a picture of the situation in Slovakia. To what extent there is a pressure on the arts? How does it work? To what extent? And yeah.
Thank you so much, Dessy, for the introduction, and it's an honor to be here, and thank you for being here. Well, basically, since almost 2 years, Slovakia has a new government. This is the fourth government of Robert Fico, who, just to put it very short, started in the 80s as an apparatchik of Communist Party. And in the very long period of his career, now he is some sort of a populist, nationalist, ready to cooperate even with neo-fascists. His new coalition of 3 political parties, 2 of them we still could somehow call the pro-Western standard political parties, but the third party is very unusual even for Eastern European political environment, because it's a Slovak nationalist party. But on the election list of this party, really dangerous mixture of conspiracy theorists, white supremacists, anti-vaccination conspiratorists came to power. And basically they hacked this traditional party, and only the head of the political party got to the parliament with them. So all the other 9 members who became parliamentarians are from this right-wing scene, basically scene founded deeply rooted in the internet, in the online world. They're coming from the digital scene. They are mostly coming from the fake news websites, and they got 2 ministries. They got the Ministry of Environment and the Ministry of Culture. And that's where the trouble begins, the real trouble. And so since 2 years, we have these 2 ministries run by people who basically are attacking the reason, to put it shortly. They are attacking the age of reason, and they are attacking the Enlightenment as we knew it for 250 years in Europe, in the Western civilization. And the reason why I got in trouble with the Ministry of Culture, with Martina Šimkovičová, is that I called her, when this government was created, I called her neo-fascist. And I explained in a very short commentary, I explained her ideology. Her right-wing ideology, her extremist views. For example, she believes in so-called big exchange, in the große Austausch. She believes that there is a hidden conspiracy behind migration, and there is a plan to change the population of Slovakia for Muslims or whoever. And she believes that the LGBTQ plus people are so to say, to blame for most of everything in our society, but basically, especially for the decline of population, they're responsible for the decline of moral values, and they are there to be punished. So, with this ideology to be on the power, this is fundamental change for my country, because Slovakia is a democratic country. It's a state it's a parliamentary democracy. And never since 1945 we had fascists in the government. They were in parliament, they were in some regional governments, but they were never in the national government. And so this is very dangerous development. Of course, the Ministry of Culture in the hands of these people also mean basically a frontal attack on the creativity in its whole. And so what we have observed in the last 2 years is basically a really brutal destruction of the whole cultural scene. I especially talk about the so-called national institutions, such as National Theatre, National Gallery, National Library, National Archives, and many others. The Ministry of Culture in Slovakia is organized like that there are 30 different institutions, big and small, which are directly run by the ministry. From these 30 institutions, only 4 of them still have the former directors. All 26 other directors were exchanged, either for direct neighbors of the minister or by party sponsors, some oligarch friends, oligarch daughters, sons, basically people with no experience in cultural management, no experience in the art scene, never ever had to do anything with this, but they are of a similar ideological background. And so we have seen a major change in the way how culture works in Slovakia and how it's organized. But on the other hand, just to give you some positive message at the end of this maybe first input, is that one of the great things that I'm very proud of is that since like this October 23, Slovakia is protesting in the streets regularly, almost every week or every second week or almost every week. And cultural politics became one of the major issues of these protests. Basically, it was started with culture, then it switched also to geopolitics, because one of the topics of the government is the new orientation, which is much more pro-Russian, which is much more oriented towards Moscow and being influenced by the fascination of Robert Fico by dictators, by regimes like Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan. He's claiming now these are our, so to say, this is where we should look to as our allies, instead of looking towards the West. So culture, geopolitics, and now also the economy are three major topics discussed by these protests and addressed by quite massive audiences and protesters coming to the squares, and not only in Bratislava or Košice, but really landslide. Like we had protests in up to 50, 60 small towns, small communities. So it became a big movement. If you would ask me last Thursday, I would probably tell you it's just a question of time till there will be election earlier as planned. But surprisingly, and for me quite shockingly, on last Friday, just before I came to the Humanities Festival, we had a really unbelievable change of constitution of Slovak Republic. And for much worse. Another step towards almost like authoritarian system. And what I'm talking about is that surprisingly this weakening government coalition of three political parties, which quite often had true problem to get some legislation through because they missed one vote or two votes and couldn't get a majority in parliament. Suddenly from 76 votes, they had 90 votes by constitutional change. And you would ask, why is this possible? Well, unfortunately, thanks to the opposition, because they came with agenda which was very tricky. And suddenly they said, well, we need in our constitution that there is only a man and a woman. Like, I have to say, it's based on Russian laws and inspired by Russian laws. That there is no non-binary person, for example, or you can be bisexual. You can't be androgyne. You can be only man or woman. And of course, there's also adoption of same-sex people. They cannot adopt kids anymore. But not only that, these are two so-called gender issues which the government addressed, but and this became also a huge topic of discussion in Slovakia. But a little bit in the shadow of these major gender issues, there is another one, and not less important, that suddenly in our constitutions we have the definition of so-called national identity. And how can you define such thing? You know, is my national identity better than yours? Or is yours better than mine? Or is yours somehow more valuable than mine? Or is the identity of a small minority of Ruthenians or Hungarians in Slovakia or Roma, is their identity also part of this? Or a very bizarre thing to try to put into constitution, but that's not even the worst. The worst is that in some parts of the legislation, Slovak law is now more important than the European law. So basically, before we had some cases in history where, for example, Roma minority or one famous poet or different people didn't get justice in Slovakia, so they could fight for the justice in Strasbourg. This change of constitution could mean that this will not be possible in the future. So it's weakening the rights of Slovak citizens, and there will be probably very intensive disputes because it's quite a strong changing of approach of Slovak Republic towards European law. But Robert Fico is celebrating. This is for him a surprising success, and for the 2-year opposition work and the protesters' work, this is a strong backlash. So in the moment, we will surely discuss it more, but I am much less optimistic than I was 10 days ago.
But just the follow-up question, because Slovakia is still a democratic country, right? So from one perspective, one can say, okay, when the majority comes to power, they can decide because they have the mandate by the voters to do the country, to run the country as they understand it, and they have the support of the people. So on the one hand, in order to fight all this that you describe, you should mobilize people to vote against these parties, right? That's on one hand, but on the other hand, you described how this new Minister of Culture changed the leadership of the most important cultural institutions with people that are absolutely incapable. How is this possible? Because that's still in a democracy. There are rules and procedures, there are qualifications that are required, there are public bodies that select these people. How is this possible? And also then, once these people are put in place, how much this affects immediately? Did this already produce change in the program? Mm-hmm. Are there cancelled artists, people that, let's say theater directors that cannot stage anymore in the National Theatre, or, you know, how much is
That's a very good question, but that's very good detail, and I'll put it short. Basically, the approach of the Minister of Culture was to weaken the institution, weaken them as much as possible, still legally, but really weaken them. So, for example, when you look at the Slovak National Gallery, which is one of our most important institutions, it's on the River Danube, on the riverbank. It was renovated for 21 years, so we were waiting for so long to see it restored. It was award-winning architectural reconstruction. It's a national gallery with collection of arts since the medieval arts till contemporary art. Really huge, the largest collection with many departments around the country, and people loved it. They had like the records of the visitors numbers, and people were really excited to see it. And it started now fully with new program. Well, now, after 2 years of the Ministry of Culture, with this far-right political party, 150 employees are not anymore there. So the leadership was fired because it was possible. Of course, the head of the curators, the whole board of curators was also fired. And then as a protest, 100 people who worked there in all sorts of positions simply decided to leave, and because they said we will not cooperate with this destruction. And when you ask about the consequences, well, they are brutal. From the 16 planned exhibitions for the next 3 years, the exhibition program, only 2 will take place, if ever. It's still not sure. So, and I think this is one of the reasons why culture became such an issue in Slovak society, that suddenly people who would never ever go to the streets to fight for National Gallery or for National Theatre, they feel like they are losing something very important in their lives. They feel like they are losing place, they love to visit with their families, where they love to see the exhibition, to have a family program, or go to some event. This is lost, and it goes through really like landslide, like suddenly from in a castle in Zvolen, which is very important medieval castle from 14th century. They are organizing like a festival of beer, and they are organizing discos, because our Ministry of Culture claims a culture should be entertainment. Culture must be apolitical. It cannot address any issues of public life, so it should just entertain the public. And so this is how this is their vision of the true Slovak culture they were promoting. So, and I could continue like this in basically every institutions. This is the first theater season in the fall in National Theater, a theater with 120 years history. It's the oldest professional theater in Slovak Republic. For the first time, they have no Schauspiel premiere. They have no new piece, no new production, because as a punishment for them, because they are one of the loudest protesters among the cultural workers, so to say. So all the funding for new productions was stopped. Maybe they will have a new production next year, but so you know, it's like it's a fundamental change in the way how our culture is working.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Anastasia, may I ask you to draw a similar picture, the context in Russia in the last years?
Okay, I don't know if I should... yeah, okay. Thank you very much. Actually, I was in Nitra in June. Yeah, we took part in the Vadelna festival in Nitra, and all these curators and people from the festival were quite depressive because they don't know if they manage to get funds for the next festival. So yeah, a little bit I had a chance to have a look at the situation in Slovakia. Yes, but I gathered some pictures for you. Actually, it was quite stressful experience for me just to look for information for pictures for today, because I don't live in Russia, and I don't see these pictures in my routine, in my daily life. So yeah, let's. I'd like to start with the today's news about a book, a book of former deputy Boris Vishnevsky, and the St. Petersburg prosecutor's office seeks to label this book as extremist literature. And this word extremist is like a routine word in current life in Russia. Yeah, so it's funny that according to this prosecutor, an expert review concluded that in his book, Vishnevsky portrays Russia as a state sliding into fascism and describes the country as an empire of hypocrisy. So it's more or less truth. So it's how look books of foreign agents on the shelves of bookstores in Russia. We've got, according to the list of Ministry of Justice, we've got, by March of this year, we had 50 writers, foreign agents. And now we have more, because every Friday they publish the new list of foreign agents. Yes, so among these foreign agents, we've got 2 terrorists and extremists, and they are Vera Poloskova, very famous Russian poet, and Boris Akunin, the most famous Russian writer. Yes. And this is another way to seal books in transparent film with a sticker saying, unfortunately, we are unable to display this publication because one of its authors has been labeled as a foreign agent by the Russian Ministry of Justice. And from the 1st of September, actually, there are some restrictions in legislation on these foreign agents. So bookstores can't sell their books because it's very risky for them. They can be fined, they can be closed, can be liquidated, etc., like a legal entity. And yes, last week on this list of foreign agents, there was a even literature prize called DAR, and yeah, so even such not institutions but cultural phenomenon like literature prize can be called foreign agent. And this like names of very, very famous Russian writers on the list of foreign agents. And we even have rock stars labeled foreign agent like Boris Grebenshchikov, Andrei Makarevich, etc., etc. And rap stars and yeah, very pop stars as well.
Maybe you should say just in one sentence, what does this labeling foreign agent bring? I mean, what are the consequences once you're labeled? Because one thing is that whenever you write something, you have to say this is produced by a foreign agent.
Yes,
but still you can...
from this 1st of September, you anymore can't sell and maybe even buy the book of foreign agent. Of course, you still can buy and still can have this book in your library, but we don't know how it will be developed, these restrictions. Yes, so there is like logic of this totalitarian thinking, you know.
But what was exactly on 1st of September? Was this a new law or regulation?
Yeah, it was the date the new law started, yeah, so they can't take part in educational projects, and their public talks, their meetings with readers, etc., etc., can be presented like these educational activities. So, and this is like, yeah, an example of censorship. It's a biography of Paolo Pasolini, and I've got this book. It's like souvenir from Russia. A friend of mine brought it to me to Granada. So yeah, I've got this souvenir. Yeah, and today I read that in Novosibirsk, for example, there was a growth of demand on the books with this censoring. Yeah, because I don't know why. Maybe people think that it's only like a phenomenon of the current life, but I think that it's only beginning of this practice. Yes. So and this is my colleagues, playwright Svetlana Petrechuk and theater director Evgenia Berkovich. Here, Zhenya Berkovich shows how many years prosecutor asked for them. So and yeah, they were sentenced to 6 years in jail for justifying terrorism, but actually for the play that were before even got prized from the state, from Golden Mask, for example, from different other prizes, yes, for the same play. Yes, so this is how Zhenya Berkovich, this is her last picture from August. So a month ago, we saw that she lost 10 kilograms in her weight, and she was quite in a depressive mood. So yeah, we don't know how she will manage with this situation. Yeah. So and yeah, here Zhenya gets the prize of Snob for the play, and you can look at this page to get some details of her case. And the same with Svetlana Petrechuk. There are 2 different websites with all details about them. And yeah, I'd like also to tell you a little bit about the death of Pavel Kushner. He was a musician, and he was killed actually in jail. He was killed by FSB. And yeah, you can also get more information and please listen to his these records on YouTube. As for resistance, you asked a little bit about resistance. Actually, there is a resistance, but you can see that to resist publicly is extremely dangerous, extremely risky. But there is underground resistance, of course. And for example, in July, 2 very young theater makers came to me to Granada, and they told a little bit how they managed to show what they want to show, to speak to the audience on the topics they want to speak on. They organize like kvartirniki, like very small events in the flats of their friends. They don't sell tickets, of course. They just invite people and ask people, they invite their friends. So every people they invite can invite 5 more people of their closest friends they trust too. It's very important, but there is no guarantee that among these invited people wouldn't be any secret agent of FSB. So there is no guarantee they wouldn't arrest it, for example, but they take this risk. Yes, I can't mention their names, of course, and the names of events, etc. So, and Theater Doc also still exists. And in 2022, they held a secret laboratory, documentary lab. It was organized by son of Elena Gremina. To continue this documentary working on the topic of the war and of the repression. I don't think they do it. They still do it, but there are some exceptions. I don't know. For example, my own performance, Kantgrad, it was accused in 2019 as a Russophobian performance, etc. But it's dedicated to the post-war situation in Königsberg, so it's quite historical production. So it's still running in Theater Doc. And it's like a new life of this performance, because for the audience of Moscow, it's absolutely a pacifist performance. So there are strange examples. So, and there is also resistance in exile. I want to mention this Lubimovka festival. It was a Lubimovka was an independent contemporary playwriting festival held in Moscow every year in September on the stage of Theater Doc. But in summer of 2022, the festival understood that they got to their competition a lot of plays dedicated to the war, and the word war already was forbidden. You even couldn't pronounce this word in Russia. So they announced that they can't hold the festival anymore in Moscow. And suddenly it was like very horizontal initiative of those who emigrated already to other countries. Our colleagues, actors, directors, and authors, they started organizing very small festivals they called them Echo of Lubimovka. They selected plays from the short list of Lubimovka festival to these small festivals, and they started making readings of these plays with discussions after the readings, because it's a very important part of the festival. From 2022, from November, the place was already translated. For example, for Eko of Lyubimivka in Paris, the place were translated to French, and then they were translated to German, to Polish, to English, etc., etc. So it's like a movement, I think, and it's very important for us because it's our way to resist. So I even can announce Eko of Lyubimivka in Vienna. In this, it will be held in this stage in Depot. So yeah, please just follow Depot schedule. Thank you.
Just to ask you, all these oppressive measures did not start with the war, right? So maybe, can you just probably very briefly, probably on the example of Teatr Doc, tell us about the mechanisms of the power in Russia to oppress theater or other artistic institutions, structures, initiatives. When did it start and how did it grow in the last more than a decade now, probably 2 decades, to come to this point that you described now?
Yes, actually, when Michal, when you were telling about the situation in Slovakia, a lot of things reminded me how it was developing the situation in Russia 10 years ago, 15 years ago, because now I can say we've got this totalitarian regime in Russia, finally. It's totalitarian without any doubt. Yes, so, but yes, of course, we were participants of this resisting movement of culture. We tried to resist, we tried to fight against tried to speak out against what we saw in Russia in those days, in those years. And what about Teatr Doc? Teatr Doc was founded in 2002 by a company, a group of playwrights. Those playwrights who, they wrote a contemporary dramaturgy, and they didn't find any way to take their place to the main stages of Russian state theater. In 90s, there wasn't any opportunity for them to see their place on the stages of the state theater. As maybe in Slovakia, in Russia also, and in these Western countries, also theater is a state-funded cultural sphere. Yes, so and a part of this independent theater was very, very small. In 90s, almost zero. But Teatr Doc is the most famous independent theater, founded in 2002. Yes, so they started with this contemporary playwriting, but then they got like new word from British playwrights about method and techniques of documentary playwriting. So they started investigating the reality around them with these tools of documentary theater. Yes. And they went to jails, to workers, to fabrics, to those spheres of life, very far from their routine life in Moscow. So in Russia there is a huge divide between regions and Moscow, like Berlin isn't Germany. Moscow also is not Russia.
Yes, but at the beginning they were allowed to do that. They were doing these stages. When did the oppression start, and what were the first forms of oppression? If you can just zoom into this, how it was building up.
Actually, the oppression was connected with the start of the war in Ukraine, with Maidan, actually. Because, for example, we staged, actually, Ugarov staged this 1 hour and 18. It was the first political play they made with Gremina. 1 hour and 18, dedicated to the death of Sergei Magnitsky in this jail, Matrosskaya Tishina. And it was very direct, political statement against those whose activities led to his death. Yes, naming these prosecutors, judges, and investigators of the case of Magnitsky. But actually, they did it, made it in 2010, and actually we played it for 4 years, or even more. But when Maidan happened in winter of 13-14, we also worked very close with our Ukrainian colleagues, like Maxim Kurachkin and Natalka Vorozhbit. They lived in Russia, and they were part of Theater Dog, part of circles of Theater Dog. And Gremina and Ugarov invited their new play about Maidan. Natalka, together with her colleagues, they made this play on Maidan. And they showed it. It was even on program of of Golden Mask. In March in Theater Dog. So, and the same year, 2014, they started oppressing Theater Dog. So in September or October, Gremina got this letter that we should leave the venue.
And the story repeated itself several times. The theater was asked to move, to go out of the places that they were working in.
Yeah, we were pushed from this Трехпрудный переулок, and it was first venue of Theater Dog for 12 years.
But at the beginning it was like their fireman's rules were not, that's why you have to go. It was not censorship per se, like blunt censorship.
Yeah, actually, even with Zhenya Berkovich and Sveta Petrichuk, we've got this very not direct way to press, yes, because this play was prized, etc., etc., and then somehow it started being extremist. Yeah.
There will be a possibility to ask questions soon, so you can
Yeah,
start
sorry.
formulating your questions.
Sorry.
If I may
So,
just,
but
if I may just add, I think now, 12 years ago later, Maxim Kurochkin is fighting in the Ukrainian army, isn't he? Isn't he a soldier? He's a.
yeah,
I know
he
him
was-
as well. I know
he
him
was
as
a
well.
soldier, yeah.
Yeah.
He was a
And
soldier.
Natalka lives in exile. No,
No, they
She's in
live in Kiev.
in Kiev. Okay, they are in Ukraine.
Yeah. They live in Kiev. Yeah, so the next year, 2015, they pushed us out from the next venue because Gremina staged the play Болотное дело. And this play was presented on the day of 6th of May. So it was like red cloth for powers. So our premiere of Болотное дело, I also took part as an actress there. So we played with dogs and police outside. So they were in the doors of the theater, all around the theater.
Yeah. So, how do you feel when listening this comparison? And I wanted to ask you actually, do you observe already in this context that you described of kind of shrinking of the space for freedom in Slovakia, that there are new spaces of resistance through culture and through the arts emerging also in Slovakia?
Yes, well, thank you for this talk. And you know, Russia is a brutal police state. Russia is now one of the worst tyrannies there are in this world. And I really can't believe that my prime minister, Slovak prime minister, a member state of European Union, is visiting Moscow, is talking to this guy, shaking his head, shaking hands of Putin, that there are parliamentarians from Slovakia traveling to Moscow regularly, claiming it's the better regime, it's the better state, it's, we should do it like them, and we should be closer friends, we should be closer allies. It's shocking, but you know, there is so much unpredictable going on in the world today, in the United States, in Slovakia, in Germany. It's not an Eastern European problem, it's not European problem, it's a global problem. There are things going on which are really completely irrational. And there is this really alliance of autocracies being developed. And that's why it's so important that really, like half a day after Robert Fico went to Moscow, there was a huge demonstration on the square of freedom in Bratislava and elsewhere, because we just cannot allow this happening, and we have to stop it before it's too late. Now we still are a free country, we still can protest, but you know, and what is really scary about the Russian system is that it's a connection of some sort of a medieval tyranny with the digital technology. They use digital surveillance, they analyze our private data from the social networks, so they combine this most modern, they buy the most expensive modern digital technologies to surveil the public on massive scale, unimaginable scale, even in the Stalinist Russia. And, you know, recently Robert Fico went to Beijing to meet more dictators from all over Asia, all over also global South. And somehow Europe is not responding, I think, strong enough, and we are not anymore a partner. We are not an ally of NATO, of the European Union. We are quite often not invited to important talks on security issues. So, well, yes, I'm deeply concerned. I can tell you, but just, you know, what can you do? You can either give up or you can try to make a change happen. So that's why for the last 2 years, I'm mostly traveling every second Friday somewhere in middle or West Slovakia, and I talk to these protests, and I meet people who organize these protests, who organize demonstrations. I'm involved, as many others are involved as well, and I appreciate these people because they are doing enormous work for the civic society to make it stronger, more resilient, and oppose these tendencies because you know, the Russian hybrid war in Slovakia did not stop with the war, with the outbreak of the full-scale war. It got more intensified. Our Russian embassy in Bratislava is basically one of the centers of the hybrid war in the region of Central and Eastern Europe. It's spreading hatred, dividing society, spreading false messages continuously, 24/7, and now the government is repeating these lies. You know, it's basically all about the decadent Western, rotten societies where everybody's gay, everybody's lesbian, everything is just bad, and we just have to leave it because it's, and so on and so on. You know the stories, you know them, and we know where it's, you know, the violence always begins in the language. It begins in the speech, the way we talk, dehumanize the others. That's how, when it's not stopped soon enough, it's gonna get radicalized. And we see Slovak society is now radicalized society. It's more deeply divided than before. But last Friday, and the vote on constitution showed, once you intensify the cultural wars, you can go even further. You can suddenly, with the help of the Catholic Church, with the religious fundamentalists, you can get much more people into your scale than you even expected. So well, yes, well, you know, the democrats of Europe should unite at the same way as autocrats are uniting. You know, it's not just like that Slovak politicians from far right are traveling to Moscow, because they go there to learn. They go to learn how to manipulate elections. Look what's going on in Moldavia, Georgia, what's going on in Serbia. You see the Russian influences all over. They still consider us being part of their empire. They never gave up. Putin never gave up this idea, and so he's openly telling it that he considers us to be Russia's own. So unfortunately, Slovakia, where I come from, differently than Baltic states or Poland or even Czech Republic, was not decolonizing from Russian influences strong enough. We were too weak. We were too somehow not resilient enough, and we were not, maybe didn't have the intellectual capacities to deal with this complicated issue, and so yeah, so that's why this is happening, and now I can tell you another example from culture. For many decades, Slovakia has a very strong tradition of children illustration of children books. We have beautiful children books from a very strong tradition of a school of the visual arts where this was a special issue. And we had it's like I think it's every second year or there is a huge international exhibition on children's illustration, and because also this institution was, so to say, there was a change of the leadership and a complete change of the institution. The new director is a direct neighbor of our Ministry of Culture, a former teacher of yoga, and there is a big fascination for esoterics. That's a perfect qualification when you're dealing with illustrations. And she, as a proud Slovak, she lives in Hainburg, in Kice, in Austria. So as a being proud Slovak, you have to live abroad. So these two ladies now are organizing, so to say, alternative reality exhibition, because almost the whole scene of illustrators is boycotting this exhibition now. But what they do, they invited artists from Russia and from China and from Kazakhstan, from Azerbaijan, and they are doing, so to say, parallel reality show for it's a virtual reality show where they only meet each other, but they, so to say, pretend that this is the real thing, you know. So that's why we are so proud that there is international boycott, that many other artists are not participating. And we are really happy that this is getting attention from abroad as well, because we have to cooperate to deal with these very, very serious issues.
Thank you. I would like to turn to your questions. So we have probably 15 minutes more for your questions.
We have a microphone. We are live streaming.
No, because there's a live stream.
There's a live stream. If you don't want to be heard in the live stream, you can refuse it, but otherwise it would be fine.
My question goes to Russia, and this is from the Soviet period. You have the government, you have basically dissidents, but always there was in the middle people who are part of the cultural establishment, but in a certain way are trying to keep a distance. They're going to defend somebody. They're not. And I'm very much interested to what extent this is still there, because seen from outside, this is what you don't see. For example, well-established names, still there, theater directors that are staging on the state theaters, but for example, in the case of Berkovich and others, was this type of support present?
Yes, of course, there are a lot of very good people still working, even in state theaters. For example, mostly they are quite old people. For example, Alexei Borodin, he is a head of Russian young people young people theater. He stages, he makes more classical repertoire, but he defended Sofia Apfelbaum, who was one of those who was in this Kirill Srebrenikov case, and he took her to the same position in his theater, and she still works there. So yeah, they not make public statements, strong public statements, but they are good people. They, I believe, I know, I'm sure in their souls, they are against the war. They are try to support Zhenya and Sveta, Zhenya Berkovich and Sveta Petrichuk somehow. I know that Evgeny Mironov, who is the head of Theater of Nations, he's also good person, but he was made to go to Mariupol and to show this support of the politics of state, because he is in a very fragile position as a gay person. It's common, recognized, common known knowledge, yes, but yeah, so there are some people who under pressure, and they sometimes are made to do something looking not so good.
But
yeah.
the question is, being the good people that you described them, what are they able to do under these circumstances in order to widen the freedom for the arts, so to say, or to support oppressed artists?
Yeah, some they try. Yeah, there are some premieres of good directors. They try to develop this Aesop language.
Yeah. Everything we knew from Soviet
to
times,
hide
right?
to hide their statements behind something appropriate. So yeah, it exists, of course.
Other questions? I would ask you actually, because culture is not all state-run or state-funded culture. There is also a market for culture, let's say pop music, etc. And sometimes, if we take pop music, for example, can be a very strong tool to mobilize people against oppressive regimes. So do you see already in Slovakia these instances of artistic work that is positioning itself clearly against all this that you describe, and that is able to mobilize people against it and kind of widen the field of resistance in that way?
Yes, I think so. Generally, mass culture is always a phenomenon which has some political issues deeply inside and was never quite innocent in that sense. We know it since the 60s and rock music and rock and roll, and especially in Czechoslovakia, the underground music had a very special position in the opposition against the regime. Now with the digital media, of course, the scene is very different. I think there is a very strong movement of all sorts of internet influencers and comedians and other personalities who are very political and who are very popular. But basically we are somehow trying to look for innovative new ways of resistance, because I think what we were mentioning, the protests, the media, it's not enough. We feel like we have to look for new ways, and especially we have in Slovakia since 2018 we already had, after the double murder of Jan Kuciak and Martina Kušnírova, an investigative journalist, we had a similar huge protest movement with tens of thousands of people on the streets, and it meant a step down of the head of the police and the head of the Ministry of Interior, and even the Prime Minister Robert Fico had to step down. So many say that this government now, this fourth government, is his way how to, so to say, his payback to all those. He never really coped with the way he had to step down. He said, like, this is my revenge. This is my revenge on those who made me leave. At that time, the protest movement, of course, because in the parliamentary democracy, it ends up in election. But the election results turned out to be not really satisfying, because what it meant the rise of the anti-system parties, and they were not ready to govern. So so the opposition failed on a huge scale, and then came Corona pandemic, and it was a way for Robert Fico to get his comeback, to get his unsurprising comeback, because after all this protest, after this double murder, he was really on the ground, and he had the huge health issues and alcohol issues, and all. Many people saw that he's out of the politics, that he will never make it again. But this multiple crisis really made it happen. And so yes, there are some very popular singers who are speaking on the public squares. There are very famous actors, and so on. But we see like that in these deep divided societies, it's not just like that. That's why I am traveling. But that's why I go to the countryside, to the smaller cities, smaller communities, because the election will not be decided in Bratislava or in Košice. It will be decided where in the countryside, where people traditionally are voting more conservative. They're voting more. They are more scared. They are more afraid of the changes, and it takes a lot of time, a lot of energy. But I think that you have to talk directly to the people, not just over commenting in online world, commenting on social media. You have to talk to them. It's much better way to convince them that they should not lose the trust in democracy as being a better system.
Questions? One more. One second.
Now you have also the production of Russian culture outside of Russia. To what extent Russians within Russia are interested of what people like you are doing and staging, or other Russian artists who are now outside of Russia? Is there kind of an interest, is there a way to access for this?
Russian in Russia, interested in what we are doing here? I don't know, actually. I think that, yeah, my friends, they are interested in what I am doing. I am interested in what they are doing. I'm trying to save connections with most of my friends, with my colleagues, and in connection with Theater Dog, because I've got 2 productions there. I still have 2 productions there. So yeah, but sometimes they feel like they are guilty for something, so they try to be more expressive, to express more sometimes they like offended by those who are in exile. So there are a complex of feelings actually between those who went and those who stayed. Yeah, it's a question. As pop singers, I'd like to mention actually Alla Pugacheva, because her interview got maybe by now around 50 million of views. And I think it's more influence, of course, than Kvartirniki, than Resistance, than everything else. Yeah, because I know that my parents live in Russia. They are quite old, around 80 years old. They learned how to use VPN, how to get all the news from Telegram, from YouTube, etc., etc. I believe in smartness of Russian people, actually. So yeah, they. I think most of these views of Pugacheva, they are from Russia.
And my last.
May I ask you something, or maybe this will be more common than a question, but you know, I still grew up in Czechoslovakia being a Russian colony, being occupied by 200,000 Russian soldiers. I still had to learn Russian, and I'm taking this very seriously. What's going on, and I was dealing with these Russian influences in my country for maybe 15 years, and I took seriously the text of Oksana Zabushko, who told that we should all look on our bookshelves, that we should start to decolonize ourselves first, before we start to decolonize our cities and our monuments and so on. And I changed a lot of my approaches and the way I read, the way I'm interpreting Russian arts and Russian art history and Russian cultural history. And I read these books of Russian classics, which all we had to have and all we had to read, and I was reading it very intensely. I don't have many of them anymore, but I had a lot of them, I can tell you. And there were so many translations, and we never learned anything that there is any Ukrainian literature. We never learned there is any Siberian culture. We never learned about any ethnic groups. We never learned that when Soviet Union was founded, half of the people did not speak Russian. I learned it when I was 40, 45. I learned it much later. And I'm always wondering, when I am reconsidering these issues, that how you Russians look at this? And like you, someone who was opposing the regime already for a long time, you went to exile. How you view this? How you look back to your heritage? Because when I have it in myself, and I feel, you know, I went to the high school which was called Red Army High School on the Red Army Street. And everything had these names. Everything around me was Pushkin, Dostoevsky's. Everything was Russia marked Bratislava city. Until today, I counted it. We have 37 streets named after Russian personalities. So it's still there. It's still there. And if you somehow, and in which way, how you change your approach to your own heritage, because it must be, I can imagine it must be traumatizing. It's traumatizing for me to have it inside of me. So maybe if you could a little bit emphasize on this, if it's of interest to you.
Thank you for the question. It's really very, very important question. As for me, my story even more complicated because I was born in Tashkent. It's the capital of Uzbekistan. And I was born and I grew up in a very Russian-speaking environment with my Uzbek classmates speaking Russian. Yes, so I left Tashkent at the age of 20, so like it's half of my life I spent in Uzbekistan. So yeah, for me it's very, very important. I think a lot about it. I try to read more and to speak to people from different parts of Russia, from Buryatia, from Tatarstan, from Kalmykia, etc., etc. I made in 2020 a performance, a play, documentary play called Neformat. It was about how Muscovites mostly, but Russian Slavic people, how they see people with another face from the Central Asia, from Kalmykia, for example, and we made investigation, a small investigation, talking to people, and they when they meet Kalmyk, they can't recognize him because they just think that he is from Central Asia, because for them he is like Kyrgyz. So actually in Russia people even don't know geography of Russia itself. There is a lot of questions of colonization, of inner colonization. So yeah, and from this start of the full invasion, full-scale invasion, actually from this point, my friends and I, we started thinking in this decolonial way. Yeah, so it was our. Maybe I started earlier because of the work on this play and because of rethinking of my childhood, of my youth in Uzbekistan, etc. But yeah, yes, you're right, and we actually tomorrow I go to Paris to make a European version of my production in Theater Doc called Pushkin and Money. And actually I thought that it can be staged in Europe, in Russian, and it was my idea how to help the Russian actors in exile, because they are absolutely like they work like drivers, like waitress, etc., etc. So, but yeah, I thought about how this Pushkin and Money can be perceived in Western Europe now.
Michal, you started a topic that is, we can talk for days and weeks. Thank you very much, Anastasia Patlay, Michal Hvorecky. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse.
Thank you so much. Natürlich. Wir danken. Thank you for the moderation. Thanks.